Okay, we are live. This is the first time of 2021 for another episode of eCommerce on Fire. I'm joined by Valentin Radu, who is the CEO of Omniconvert. Valentin, welcome to the show. Why don't you give everyone an introduction about yourself, your background? Obviously, now you're the CEO of Omniconvert, and tell us about how you got involved in e-commerce.
Yeah, sure. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I used to be a poor kid from Bucharest, Romania, but I don't know, effort and reading books actually pays off. So I've became an entrepreneur. I've built the largest online insurance e-commerce here in Romania. I've made the exit 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 2021. After we turned out to get something like 14 million in turnover and 250,000 customers. With the learnings from being an e-commerce entrepreneur, I founded Omniconvert, which was a technology to improve conversion rate. 3 years ago, we've decided to pivot and to address another category around customer value optimization. And we've empowered hundreds of e-commerce companies to improve their customer lifetime value by doing RFM segmentation and becoming really data-driven. So now I'm building Omniconvert. I have 40 great colleagues, and we're trying to let's say educate and shift the attention of the e-commerce companies from acquisition towards customer lifetime value and the whole life cycle of the customers.
Sounds great. And obviously, I mentioned to you before we started this live, a lot of the content marketing you guys are doing has really hit the mark and turned a lot of heads, I think, especially with the growing acknowledgement that we can't just continuously go down the path of chasing acquisition. And now people are, as you said, starting to look at the lifetime value as that North Star metric. So let's talk a little bit about customer value optimization as well.
Yep.
So you're very big on the lifetime value CAC ratio. What is this, and why is it so important to an e-commerce business?
Yeah, I will start by focusing on the fact that as an e-commerce entrepreneur, you have only three options with your company. You either build it to sell it eventually. So you build a company which is going to be the product, the ultimate product that you're going to sell to leverage your work. The second alternative would be to build it as a cash machine, right? Let's say as a cash cow, right? To build it as to make it big and to leave it to your nephews and like a big empire. And the other alternative would be to simply make it as a lifestyle business for you. So instead of having a job, let's say you sell, I don't know, pillows or whatever what you're selling on the internet. So you have only three options. Whatever option you will take. This is going to be important because the education towards how much you are getting from a customer for the total lifespan of that customer and how much you are investing to acquire that customer is not there because nobody's interested in educating the market towards that. The importance of this ratio is crucial because it can make you or break your business, right? So I've had the pleasure, or it's not really a pleasure, but I've assisted at someone's at seeing a company grow fantastically and then simply falling into oblivion. So it was back in 2015. It was a company called B Fashion. They grew really rapidly. In 2 years, they got to 11 million euro in turnover. They got outside capital to grow, but at some point they've reached a plateau, and the customer acquisition cost was too hard to bear, and their customer retention wasn't there to justify it. Even though they've expanded in something like 8 or 9 countries, they couldn't keep up with acquiring new customer because at some moment, if you invest a lot in acquiring customers, but they never come back, You don't see this in the P&L, you don't see it in Google Analytics, and most of the entrepreneurs are being guided by those two instruments.
Mm-hmm.
While the CLV is something that is going to pay back in the future. And that's why you are making these investments. So the ratio between the CLV and CAC is the one that shows you if you have a healthy growth or not. And usually this ratio should be more than 2, preferably 3. Of course, there are companies like Amazon that postponed the profitability because let's say the beauty of entrepreneurship is that you are selling dreams to customers, to partners, to colleagues, and to investors. And you say eventually will be profitable. And the let's say the magic or the art of Jeff Bezos was to always postpone profitability. Like 20 years, they've postponed that. But they could justify this by the fact that they've got outside capital to fuel the growth and to justify such a low CLV to CAC ratio, because their game was to acquire market share. But not all the entrepreneurs could do this. But if you're consciously keeping the balance so low, that means you have external capital and you know what you're doing. But if you don't measure, you can't improve it.
That's an interesting point, actually, because I think we're at that reckoning point now where a lot of people are considering whether it's sustainable, especially the top line revenue, and obviously taking into account the profits. Is there any instances where, like Amazon, for example, you think it makes sense to maybe not necessarily have this ratio where ideally where you would expect it to be in line because you're looking to increase market share? Would there ever be a circumstance where you would recommend being more aggressive?
Yeah, if it's not about market share, it's about the timing. Let's say you wanna be fast in the market, and you're consciously let's say losing money, because that's all about. If your CLV versus CAC ratio is too low, that means you are losing money. Other circumstances, I mean, you might say that if you're selling wedding rings, that's not so important, but it actually is, because you pay money on advertising or in the demand generation, let's say, not advertising, because another, let's say, bias of the e-commerce managers or entrepreneurs is that acquiring customers is what they do, but it's not what they do. What they do is they invest money into generating demand, not acquiring customers, but generating customers. And there are all sorts of ways to generate customers. And what I think is important is that CLV over CAC is important to look, no matter if you're selling beverages like fast-moving consumer goods or you're selling whiteys. No matter what you're selling, no matter the buying cycle, you need to keep this balance. You need to keep an eye on this ratio.
Well, that's an interesting point, actually. Do you recommend, say, for example, let's take a mattress or sofa company. Is this ratio more important to them compared to a fast-moving consumer goods company who may say, okay, in the future, we'll become more profitable because we're buying so many customers?
Yeah, that's the game, because what I'm a strong believer into using math into forecasting the future. So if you don't have clear objectives which are aligned with your growth generating factors, you are just shooting in the dark, right?
Yeah.
You need to do you need to do a mathematical modeling for your business, and that means you need to take into account some assumptions. When you're starting a new business, you have some assumptions that you're gonna acquire X customer with this cost, and you're gonna get this profit. But what you're assuming is that the CLV is going to be such and such because you have the purchase frequency as well, and the customer acquisition cost is going to be such and such. Even though you are not monitoring that, those ratios are there. It's like the numbers that are happening without you being aware of them. But you need to be data informed in order to be data driven. So first you need to find out that there are some things like in the body, right? You might not feel that you're gonna be ill in the future. But if you're going to do some analysis, some blood analysis, whatever, the marks are there, the signs are there. So what we are proposing is look at the marks before the patient is dying.
Yep, I like it. Makes perfect sense, absolutely. Let's turn our attention to the net score and how to apply it to e-commerce. So tell us a little bit about this concept. This was new to me. I actually discovered it reading your blog, but found it very, very interesting. And I've got a few questions on how to apply it as well to your business. So give us an overview of what the Net Promoter Score is and why it's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the NPS, the Net Promoter Score, has been used by first of all by the big companies so that they can see the future. It was the single, one of the single KPIs, let's say metrics that showed how the future is going to look, analyzing the customer voice. So simply said, the NPS is the score of how many promoters does your company has versus how many detractors your company has. So you ask them, what are the chances for you to recommend us to a friend or colleague or relative in the future? And if they give you a score from 0 to 10, based on that, if they give you 9 or 10, they are the promoters. If they are giving you 0 to 6, they are the detractors. If they are giving you 7 or 8, these are passives. So if you subtract the percent from the percentage of promoters, the percentage of the detractors, this is your NPS, right? So that could be 60, 20, minus 20. So the banks, for instance, they have a negative NPS, and it's common to do it. So because these are bastards and everyone knows that, and no matter what you do as a bank, you're not gonna look good in the eyes of the customers, right? However, the trend of the NPS, so when you have enough data, when you have enough feedback, you can see if the number of promoters is going up or down. So if the NPS is trending up, that means the customers will recommend you, and that means your let's say growth is going to be there, because the demand generation is not going to be fueled only by acquiring customers, but also based on the word of mouth of your current customer base. So your customers are so satisfied that they will recommend you in the future. The problem with the NPS, because there are two faces for every coin. So the problem with the NPS is because it's an average, and not all the average is showing you the reality. There are some moments when you have, I don't know, a lot of promoters and a lot of detractors, and maybe you feel that it's okay because it's a positive NPS, but that means you need to look at the clusters of customers. So what we've done, for instance, in our technology and in our approach, was to segment the NPS by looking at the NPS from the power customers, which are the soulmates or the lovers, the ones that are pretty active, their RFM score is high, so they buy over and over again from you. They have the habit formed to buy from you, because those customers are not actually buying, they picking products from you. It's like when you go to the supermarket, you don't decide again to buy a new yogurt. You buy the same freaking brand every time, and you are picking the yogurt and you're putting in your shopping cart. So that's why it's important to segment the NPS and see the NPS by RFM group, to see the NPS by brand, to see the NPS by city or location, to see the anomalies of the NPS, right? So it's like when you look in Google Analytics, you're interested to see the segments. You want to see the conversion rate for SEO, for organic traffic, for email, for paid ads, and so on. It's exactly the same with the NPS. So we've realized that, and now we are segmenting the NPS based on location, based on the brand, the product, the category of products, and the segment group, so that you can see anomalies. We even have a customer, one of the early adopters of Reveal, which is now giving bonuses to the customer service based on their NPS score, because they now can see the NPS for each rep that they have. Wow. And if you have a rep which is the best, then you understand, okay, what is this guy doing that I can replicate so that I can teach the other customer reps? Why is this guy having 92 in NPS and this girl has 68 on NPS, because that means he's doing something different.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you on practical ways to apply this, because I think one of the problems with having so much interesting data is that you become overwhelmed with it and get into that state of analysis paralysis where you don't know how to interpret and do something pragmatic with it. So how do you collect this score? I assume it's by a survey. Is this done after people purchase immediately or when they've received the product? Because I imagine it'll be vastly different. Well, not necessarily, as long as the shipping time is good, maybe. When do you recommend the best time to send this survey, and is it done via survey?
Yeah, we actually recommend to do it pre-delivery and post-delivery.
Okay, twice.
So we have this approach to look at the delta between the NPS. Yep. When you've decided to buy a product, you haven't bought the product itself. You bought the promise of having a product. Yep. Sometime in e-commerce is like tomorrow, yep, or in 2 weeks or in 1 week. So it's a different story when you look on the promise that the website is doing and what is the experience, the user experience. And then you see the actual customer experience after the shipment has been done and after the product has been used. So the delta shows the expectations gap.
Yeah, interesting.
How to use it in e-commerce is like you trigger alerts to your customer service when you have a very important customer that gives you a 0 score. Then you have a problem. You want to retain that customer, which has a CLV which can be at times even 100 times higher than for the new customers. So when you segment customers, you can see that you can't miss on the best customers that you have, because they are the ones which are making your company profitable.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, because I can only speak for what we do personally, there's so many objectives in that post-purchase window. Sometimes, like we, for example, would recommend going in with a cross-sell, upsell. You've got people who recommend to trigger an email to get the user to create an account because that increases the lifetime value. You've got generic like migrate to social emails. Does it overwhelm people to send them like an additional touch point to ask them to do this? And where would you recommend this comes into it in terms of priority? Because let's say, for example, you offer an upsell / cross-sell, then a survey, and then ask someone to create an account. Is there a chance that they may only do one of these and ignore the others?
Yeah, I think it's what it's important here to do. It's to understand the concept of customer journey. So the customer journey, usually it's something that the companies are not consciously designing. But in the era where the customer is the king, because there are a lot of alternatives that he can find to buy the same product from you or from another 25 competitors of yours or 200 competitors, you can't miss on the customer experience. So your first objective would be to validate that you're doing a good job. That's my opinion. So if your objective would be to upsell, that means you don't care about the customer. So imagine that you had a bad experience on ASOS, for instance. Yeah, my daughter bought something from ASOS, and then she wanted to return that thing, but all she got was a blast of emails, a sequence of emails. She was waiting for a return. Her product was a mess, but she got a lot of emails from the same brand stating that, hey, here's a discount for you, buy again from us, whatever. So when you have this like a schizoid approach, right? When the same company says on one channel, buy again, and on another channel, wait for 2 weeks for your money to be in your account, then you have a problem.
Yeah.
So
it's very interesting how to, like I said, use that data in a practical way before. So on the NPS score, let's say you have a positive one or you identify a negative cohort. How do you apply this in a pragmatic ways? Like, let's say, for example, you identify people really love the company, it has a great score. How can you then take that data and use it to increase lifetime value even more?
So we've identified a lot of ways to improve the customer lifetime value. Now there are two kind of approaches to improve the CLV. One is to simply have projects and to fix the system itself. So you as an e-commerce entrepreneur, owner, whatever, what you're building is a system. So you're not building, you're not doing campaigns, you're not blasting products to thousands of people. What you're doing is a system that should work without your intervention as an entrepreneur. So an autonomous system that has a lot of sets of rules and procedures and processes. So one way would be to simply fix the system, to look at the bugs and to fix the systems. Another alternative would be to have special campaigns or to tweak precise nevralgic points, right? So fragile points or inflection points where you should interfere. So my approach in practical manner would be to first understand where is the problem, where is the biggest problem, and to do that you need to look at all this data, so that you can't do everything at the same time. Even the big huge corporate companies can't do everything at the same time, even though they have resources. And that means you need to, if there's a fire in your flat, for instance, you need to find the source of that fire. In order to find the source of that fire, you need to look at the data. So without asking your customers, without having the customer voice to understand what's bothering them, what keeps them from returning, you can't fix the first thing. Because the idea is to prioritize. You could do a lot of things. You could do cohort analysis. You can do NPS. You could do qualitative surveys. You could do jobs to be done to understand why the customers buy those products that you're selling. You can do a lot of stuff. But what I suggest as the first thing is to fix the mentality of the e-commerce entrepreneur. That's the first step, no matter what. So if the head of the company is not aware about the CLV CAC balance, about being customer centric, and it's order centric or traffic or vanity metrics centric, you can't fix that. So it's that's why we are not even considering to work with companies that has entrepreneurs which are looking to improve the retention rate 25% in 1 month, because there are a lot of factors which are affecting that. So first thing would be to understand the customer voice and where is the problem. What keeps customers from coming back and buying again from you? Because the purchase frequency, if it's so low, but you're selling a product, or you're selling a lot of products that could be bought afterwards, then you have a problem with the retention. But do you have a problem with the products which are having a poor quality, or you have a problem with the services? Those two could be the main problems. So if it's a product problem, then it's a huge problem. That means you need to change the supply chain, you need to change the vendors. You have another problems than fixing the conversion rate or traffic. So that's why you need to understand where is the problem. Where is the fire in your flat? Is in the kitchen? Is in the living room? Is in the dorm? Because it's crazy how many people are tweaking Facebook ad campaigns, but their customers are pissed off on Twitter, on Facebook, and they are saying like, what a crap. You promised me this and you've done that. So that's why I would start with customer research. And then if you find that your problem is not the product itself, because people are pleased with the product, and they are not pleased with the customer experience, with the touch points, with all the process, all the post-purchase process, then you need to do the customer journey mapping and understand what is the most impactful thing that you could do. So that's how you use this kind of data in a practical way.
So that's also why it's important, obviously, like you said, to ask after they just purchase and then when they receive the product, because that'll show you where you have significant area you need to improve. Out of curiosity, just to touch on the score maybe that might be different after somebody receives the product. We worked with, I can't say the name, a big company earlier last year, and the data science team found out that if a customer received a product within, I believe it was 2 days compared to 3 to 4 days with expedited shipping, the lifetime value of that customer was so much higher, to the point where the brand actually made it a key thing to lower the shipping thresholds, because they realized using the data that they would win this back over the long term. Is there any quick wins, like any correlating factors that you've seen with an enhanced NPS score due to things like this? And if so, what are they and how would you implement them?
Yeah, there are some tweaks. For instance, the time to first response.
Yeah.
So how fast, not how fast you are solving the problem, but how fast you are giving any kind of response which is not freaking automated, like we've got your question, wait for us. So time to first response is really crucial to improve the NPS. Another crucial thing is to make your customers feel like you care about them. For instance, like a research from Nielsen, I think it showed that 68% of the customers which are leaving a company, they leave it because they feel that the company doesn't care about them. So they don't migrate to a new competitor for a better price, for whatever. They leave, they abandon the company because they feel that like you don't care about them. So another important aspect is that if you show that you care for your customers, and that's copywriting, folks. It's just copy, right? So just content, how you talk to your customers, because it's that cognitive bias, the framing, yeah? How you frame the reality affects the reality itself. So I might sell the same glass, but I can sell it like there's a glass, or I can sell it like water will never be the same because of the components of this freaking glass. Water is being affected, and you're gonna feel better and whatever. So at the end of the day, it's the same glass. It's how am I selling it to you? So if you can show that you care about your customers and what you're selling is the progress that they want in their lives, then you have a lifetime customer. Otherwise, you just, let's say, shipping products from A to B, and that means you're gonna fall into oblivion at some point in the future.
Yeah, you're going to crash and burn, definitely. That's very interesting, because you hear a lot these days in marketing about empathy and being customer centric, almost to the point where they became buzzwords. But that just go to show that it's backed up by the data, and having a fast response time, very basic things like caring about the customer and being responsive go a long way to increasing the lifetime value over the long term.
Yeah.
We're going to end on some quick fire questions. So I'll open the floor up in case anyone's watching. What are some of the best ways to increase that repeat order rate that you've found? Let's say, for example, for a fast moving consumer goods company.
Yeah, the repeat purchase rate is being affected about the quality of the product and the services as well. But there's a pattern for every company. So, for instance, in fast-moving consumer goods, there's a window of opportunity, because you are consuming the product, and you might be or might not be satisfied about it. However, you can forget about buying again that product, and eventually you need to form your habit to consume the same, I don't know, let's say beverage or food every day or every week, right? Because, for instance, I'm consuming a special honey, Manuka honey, right? And I can get it from 25 companies. I bought it like 6 months from a company that wasn't positioning properly to me, because the product was great, but they've just tried to upsell on me, even though I haven't finished that product. So what is important is to understand the buying cycle, when you can push the customer to buy again, because otherwise you become annoying, and all you want from me as a customer is money. So if all you want is money, I'm not going to give it to you. If you want, let's say, if you show that you really care about me, then I can buy again. So one important aspect is the average days between the transactions. In fast-moving consumer goods, 80% of the customers are not going to buy if there are around 2 months since their previous purchase. So If you wait for 2 months, you're not going to have a customer.
Yeah.
And the drop rate is different for every company. Let's say if you sell bundle food, or if you sell, I don't know, beverages or coffee or tea, if what you're selling is packed in such a manner that it takes 3 weeks to consume it, then that means in the first 3 weeks, you don't want to push customers to buy again. You want customers to be convinced about how cool you are, how cool is the product, and the fact that you care about them. But when that time frame is gone, then you want to give them easy options to refill, to restock.
Yep.
So that's how you can improve the repeat purchase rate if you say the right thing at the right time. Usually, instead of that, usually companies are doing email marketing campaigns and freaking remarketing campaigns, which are so aggressive. I've just bought from you. Let me be on my Instagram because I've just bought yesterday. Yeah. Not saying something can be way better than saying a dumb thing.
Yeah. I completely agree. It's funny, actually. I have a video coming tomorrow. I just bought from JD Sports. I don't know if you know who they are. Big retailer in the UK, fashion retailer. I bought some gloves from them last week. And in that time frame, I must have had close to 20 email campaigns. So just a complete scattergun approach, general 50% off. They've even said, here's the best clothes for you today, girl, even though I bought men's clothing items. No segmentation at all. And it was just so relentless. It caused me to churn straight away, even though I like the experience on site, the likelihood of making a repeat order. Maybe I will, but not through email anyway, because I was so fast to unsubscribe. It's very interesting, though, what you've said about just showing the customer that you care about them and going in with timely reminders. Out of curiosity, have you seen any correlation between using content to nurture people as opposed to just asking someone to buy something? So let's use the example of the Manuka honey. Go in and talk a little bit about the quality of the ingredients, how it improves your immune health, as opposed to saying, buy again.
Yeah, it's like a sales guy. At the end of the day, your brand has a voice. Your e-commerce has a voice, right? And you are selling some brands. So content truly helps. And we've seen that, for instance, one of the first early adopters where they were buying tea. They were selling tea, right? And they've just had these abandoned cart campaigns, and then emails with the 5-10%, and then that's it. They were doing this kind of campaigns every now and then, like, here's the stock that we want to get rid of, and it's 25% if you want it, take it. And they've identified their RFM segments which are churning. Every company, every e-commerce has a group of incredible customers. All of them, no matter how big or small it. There are 6 or 20 or 2,000 of them or 20,000 of them, but you need to understand who they are, and based on how they verbalize their experience, that's the trick. Based on the research, based on the qualitative research, they will verbalize the points of difference that they see at you. Yeah, why they've bought. Why do you like Manuka honey? Because XYZ. But they will sell it. They will say it in such a manner which is common sense, which is easy to digest, which is not using this marketing word.
Yeah.
And with that wording, you should follow up based on, here's what the others are saying about the Manuka honey. What's your opinion, by the way? Write a review if that's working or not. Or another way to follow up with great content would be to simply not give them an opportunity to write a review, but give them ways to change their lives, because at some point you need to change your life. Let's say I'm now drinking maca, which is a thing from Peru or whatever, and I need to do this every morning, right? So I'm getting this powder, I'm putting it in vegan milk, and then I put some honey and whatever. But it's a new habit, I need to take that and put it there and tweak it and whatever. And some company, what they were doing, because I was a power user for them, so I bought like maybe 600 euros. they've sent me a freaking blender, hand blender, those small things that you use to blend things together, because they've seen that I've bought something that that's going to be needed for me to change my habit. So they facilitated for me not to use the spoon and my hand to mix that powder. And that's a small thing. It was like, maybe it was €6 for them, but I bought 600 euro. And this over delivery, if you inject it in your customer journey, that's gonna do wonders for you, because that's why I'm talking about it. It was you need to provide outstanding customer experience, and always to under promise and over deliver. If you respect this principle all the time, then you're gonna be winning at this game.
I feel as though there's so many brands who understand they should be doing this, but they just don't know how to. They're just so conditioned to send offers of 10%, 15%, 20%. And they're aware that they need to lead with more content and value, but they just don't know how to start, or they're so used to doing the old way, they're terrified that the sales are going to drop if they stop. But it's quite interesting, speaking about when we take clients on board, we usually recommend doing more of a 60, 3%, 33 split of content to selling in the email campaigns. And quite often the actual content campaigns sell more than any type of offer. So they get so scared to share like a blog article or something that's genuinely going to benefit the customer in the email. And oftentimes it outperforms the sales campaign. So then obviously they become a convert. But it's something that I think is going to continue to grow, and people are aware that they definitely should be doing. Let's talk about, we haven't discussed actually best ways to increase conversion rate. I know we've been focused on acquiring customers and increasing the repeat purchase rate, but obviously Omniconvert offers a suite for improving conversion rates as well. What are some of the quickest wins you found on increasing the conversion rate?
One of the quickest ways is to simply analyze the dropouts in the funnel, so to see the neuralgic points in your funnel. Another important aspect are the surveys as well. So you simply ask a lot of customers, because you have a huge funnel. A lot of people are just window shoppers, right? They will come and go, are in the awareness phase. A lot of them are in the consideration phase. So based on, if you do surveys for each part of your funnel so that you can understand what's holding them back, then you will be able to change the copy or change the offer or whatever. So it's all the same. It's pretty much the same thing. You can't, let's say, change things without having a strong hypothesis. And the problem with the conversion rate optimization is that a lot of companies are coming up with, hey, let's tweak this image, or let's make it bigger, or whatever. But if you ask your customers, maybe you can understand that, for instance, you are selling medical devices for elders, and your font is freaking 9, but you change anything else but the font. But those people can't see it well, What if you could do a simple tweak to ask them how's their experience on the website? And if 25 people will say, I can't read it, maybe it's the time to change the font, and this will bring a huge uplift. And it's a small tweak that you do, but you don't do it because you're not asking your customers. So that's one of my favorite ways to improve conversion. So usually it's the data that you can see in analytics or whatever, and it's also the customer voice. So mixing qualitative research with the quantitative data usually allows you to come up with outstanding hypotheses. Then it's a matter of let's say ongoing optimization. So it's in CRO, I think maybe 3 out of 10 experiments are winners, and that means you need 10 experiments to get to 3 winners. But if you do 1 experiment per month, it's gonna get, maybe you're not lucky, and you're gonna do 7 months without having an experiment. And usually people are not strong enough to get to the habit of continuous testing.
So much of it seems to go back to just asking the customer and
Yeah,
finding out at the root cause rather than making any assumption.
yeah, that's true.
We're going to end on, I know we talked about CAC, like customer acquisition cost. What are some effective strategies you found to lower this?
Focusing on the right customers, that's the first one. So understanding from where they are buying or on which channels, right? Analyzing CLV and understanding that maybe is the time to focus on cities which don't have a shopping mall, for instance. That's an easy approach, right? Because if you focus your acquisition campaigns because you've seen that the CLV is higher for customers which are coming from these cities, that's an easy way to lower the customer acquisition cost. Another way is to do lookalike campaigns based on your best customers, right? So you feed the algorithms of Facebook or Google with your best customers, not with your average customers, right? That's another tweak, because that means they will know what kind of customers are you looking for, not for average, but for the best customers. Another thing to lower your CAC is to end the advertising fatigue. So mainly if you don't turn campaigns off, never turn them off, that means you're always in front of the customers, but they need time to breathe in and breathe out from you. So maybe if you stop the campaigns, maybe you'll see some wonders. We've seen that happening at our campaigns, actually. So yeah, pretty much that's it from the top of my head at this moment for CAC. And another thing to do to lower it is to be aware about it. You can't improve what you don't measure.
Out of curiosity, have you seen any particular channels, maybe for example SEO, that seem to be growing in terms of a low CAC in Omniconvert? Any data on that?
We don't have enough data to say something which is let's say other than indicative, right? At this moment, it's clear that email, the customers which are buying through email from own channels are the best ones to have. So paid campaigns are not delivering as well as people are thinking that they are delivering. Because
with that in mind, it's so interesting that so many brands go on that scattergun approach, because just based on that data, you would assume that your goal would be to keep someone subscribed for the maximum amount possible to give you the maximum opportunities to sell to them. But instead, we see the complete opposite, where brands almost are trying to get people to unsubscribe by bombarding them with offers.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a big fan of email, and unfortunately, people are getting it wrong. My test would be to simply look at your own emails, to get them, I've just had the chat with the brand that sent 5 emails in the first 2 days. I think it's too much, because the human brain is plugged so that it uses the least amount of energy, right? So I'm always trying, because that's the brain. Brain is lazy. It shouldn't use energy which is not necessary, because we are plugged in to survive. And in order to survive, because our ancestors wanted to run and to have enough fat, and muscles, so that they can escape from the claws of the tigers, they haven't allocated too much energy for the brain. So don't make me think principle says that don't send me 5 emails in the first 2 days, because that means you're gonna use energy. I'm gonna use energy just because I've bought from you one freaking, I don't know, t-shirt. And 5 emails 15 years ago, when you've got mail, was a good news. Now you've got mail is a bad news, because I have a lot of things to tackle with. I juggle with a lot of chaos in my life, the bills, the kids, the whatever. And if I have another email from the same brand, it's not such a good news.
Yeah, it's like that strange paradigm where the brands are scared to not email enough and be forgotten, but at the same time, it's getting that frequency right, isn't it? So you don't annoy someone so much or get lost in the noise. But it's been a pleasure, Valentin. I appreciate all your energy and enthusiasm. I'm going to leave a comment on LinkedIn and tag you in this, so anyone who's got any questions can follow up and ask. Or how can people contact you?
Yeah, on LinkedIn. I'm a LinkedIn fan.
That would be the most logical thing. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time. I'm going to end this now, and I'll speak to you soon.
All the best. Thank you.